In the heart of the Balkan Peninsula, there is a country shrouded in mystery. It is a land of ancient mountains and deep reflective lakes. This is North Macedonia. Its story is not just one of borders on a map, but a long, twisting journey through time. Imagine holding an old, faded map. You trace the lines with your finger, feeling the texture of forgotten empires and whispered legends. This small, landlocked nation is a crossroads of history, where cultures have met, clashed, and blended for centuries. The air itself seems to carry tales of Roman legions, Byzantine emperors, and Ottoman traders who once walked these very paths. The landscape here is a character in its own right. The Sar Mountains stand like silent, watchful giants, their peaks often lost in the clouds. Below them, valleys cradle towns where life moves at a different pace. You can almost feel the weight of history in the stones of Ohrid, a city that sits on the shores of one of Europe's oldest and deepest lakes. Every corner turned, every mountain pass crossed, feels like stepping into another chapter of a story that is still being written. This isn't just a place to visit, it's a place to explore, to question, and to discover the layers of its complex past. The journey to understand North Macedonia is like following a trail of clues. It's a nation that has been known by many names and has been part of many larger states. Its identity has been a source of debate, a puzzle that has taken decades to piece together. This sense of enigma is what makes it so compelling. It's a country that invites you to look beyond the headlines and delve into the rich, often turbulent currents of its history. The people here have a deep connection to their land, a resilience forged over generations of change and uncertainty. So where does our journey begin? It starts here, in this beautiful but complicated corner of Europe. We are not just looking at a country, we are exploring an idea. The idea of Macedonia has meant different things to different people throughout history. It is a name that carries immense power and significance. To understand the North Macedonia of today, we must first travel back in time, to a period when it was part of a much larger, ambitious project, a country called Yugoslavia. This is where the modern chapter of its story truly begins to unfold. For much of the 20th century, the land we now call North Macedonia was not an independent country. It was the southernmost republic of a larger federation, Yugoslavia. This union of South Slavic peoples was a bold experiment, a collection of different cultures, languages, and histories held together under one flag. Within this state, it was known as the Socialist Republic of Macedonia. For many, it was a time of relative stability and shared identity. People were Yugoslavs, and their Macedonian heritage was one part of that larger picture. The shared struggles and triumphs of Yugoslavia shaped the destiny of the region for decades. But like many grand experiments, Yugoslavia could not last forever. By the early 1990s, the Federation began to crumble. Tensions that had been simmering beneath the surface for years finally boiled over. One by one, the republics started to declare their independence. For Macedonia, this was a moment of both great hope and profound uncertainty. In 1991, it chose its own path, breaking away from the dissolving Yugoslavia. Unlike some of its neighbors, its separation was peaceful. There were no shots fired, no battles fought. It was a quiet, determined step into the unknown, a velvet divorce from a state that no longer existed. The newly independent nation faced a world of challenges. Suddenly, it was on its own. It had to build a new government, create a new economy, and, most importantly, establish its own identity on the world stage. It initially called itself the Republic of Macedonia. This seemed simple enough. It was the name the people had used for their republic within Yugoslavia. However, this choice of name would soon spark one of the most unusual and complex diplomatic disputes in modern European history. The path to recognition was going to be far more difficult than anyone had anticipated. The dream of a peaceful, independent future was immediately put to the test. The country found itself in a precarious position, surrounded by neighbors who were all watching its next move with keen interest. The echoes of Yugoslavia were still all around, in the architecture, in the memories of the older generation, and in the political landscape. The leaders of this new nation had to navigate a treacherous path. They had to reassure their own people while also seeking acceptance from a skeptical international community. The journey had just begun, and the biggest obstacle was yet to come, centered on that one single powerful word, Macedonia. As the new nation took its first steps, a major problem emerged from its southern border. Its neighbor Greece strongly objected to the country using the name Republic of Macedonia. For Greece, the name Macedonia was not just a name, it was a sacred part of its own national heritage. It referred to an ancient kingdom, the Kingdom of Alexander the Great, which was centered in the northern region of modern Greece, also called Macedonia. Greece feared that its new neighbor might have territorial claims on its own Macedonian province. The dispute was about history, identity, and the very soul of a name. This created a strange and confusing situation. How can a country exist without a name that everyone agrees on? Inside the country, people simply called their home Macedonia. But outside, it was a different story. The dispute escalated, and Greece used its political influence to block its neighbor's recognition. This left the young nation in a state of diplomatic limbo. To get around this problem, the United Nations stepped in with a temporary solution. In 1993, the country was admitted to the United Nations under a provisional and rather cumbersome name, the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, often shortened to FYROM. For over 2 decades, the country lived with this temporary label. Imagine being introduced to everyone by what you used to be, not what you are now. It was a constant reminder of the unresolved dispute. On maps, in news reports, and at international events like the Olympics, it was FYROM. This created a dual identity. The name dispute became a part of daily life, a source of frustration and a symbol of the challenges the nation faced. It was a puzzle that seemed impossible to solve, a diplomatic stalemate that dragged on year after year, affecting trade, politics, and the country's aspirations to join international bodies like NATO and the European Union. The world watched as this unique naming controversy continued. It was more than just politics. It was a deeply emotional issue for people on both sides of the border. In Greece, massive rallies were held to protect the Macedonian name. In the newly independent republic, people felt their identity was being denied. The situation highlighted how powerful history can be. Ancient kings and bygone empires were casting long shadows over the present day, making it difficult for two modern nations to find common ground. A solution was needed, one that would respect the past while allowing both countries to build a future. The search for a solution was a long and winding road. For years, United Nations envoys shuttled between the two capitals, Athens and Skopje, trying to broker a deal. Negotiations would start, then stall, then start again. Generations grew up with the name dispute as a constant backdrop to their lives. The issue was a barrier, preventing the small Balkan nation from fully integrating with the rest of Europe. It was clear that a compromise was the only way forward. Both sides would have to be willing to give something up to gain something more valuable, a stable, neighborly relationship, and a clear path to the future. Finally, after 27 years of disagreement, a breakthrough occurred. In 2018, the prime ministers of both countries met on the serene shores of Lake Prespa, a lake that spans the border between them. There, they signed a historic agreement. It was a brave and difficult political act for both leaders. The agreement was complex, but its core idea was simple. The country would change its name to the Republic of North Macedonia. This new name would make it clear that the country was geographically distinct from the Greek region of Macedonia, addressing Greece's main concern. In return, Greece would lift its objections to its neighbor joining NATO and the European Union. The Prespa Agreement was a landmark moment. It showed that even the most deeply entrenched historical disputes could be resolved through diplomacy and a willingness to compromise. In February 2019, the change became official. The country known for a quarter of a century as FYROM officially became the Republic of North Macedonia. It was a new name for a new chapter. The country soon became the 30th member of NATO, a long-held ambition finally realized. The journey was not over, but a major obstacle had been cleared from the path. Today, North Macedonia continues its enigmatic journey. The new name has not erased the country's rich and complex history. Instead, it has added another layer to its story. The mountains still whisper their ancient tales, and the waters of Lake Ohrid still hold deep secrets. The country remains a land of discovery, a place where the past and future are in constant dialogue. The puzzle of its identity has not been solved, but rearranged into a new, more hopeful picture. North Macedonia stands as a testament to resilience, a small nation that navigated a labyrinth of history to find its own unique place on the map of the world.